99% of you have no clue what it means to not go fast and to not go slow. And when you fundamentally understand the right way to start doing things, the right way to start going to where you're trying to get to, without getting there and having to restart, or getting there and taking a million years to get there, when you fundamentally start to understand the right way to go about things while doing it fast and going slow at the same time, that's when you start to have a real mental unlock of what you can do and how many things you can get done. So in the last few videos, we've been talking about how to implement this beautifully orchestrated agent system to where you can totally remove yourself from the business, from the work, from the doing, and just not even operate at a high level, not even operate as the one who's overseeing things, but completely remove yourself with what we talked about as the orchestrating agent that does all the work for you, right? But then I explained that you're going to run into a few issues with this process, right? And so today we're talking about how you can go fast, how you can also apply the elements of going slow but also being perfect in these systems, and even if you don't have this agent system, still applying it into other things that you do that allow you to create beautiful work from a great foundation, right? And the beautiful part is it's really very impactful, yet it's very easy to implement it, right? Because actually what you're doing is you're removing the noise, right? You're removing the mess. And that just makes it easy, okay? And then it's not like something new that we're inventing here, right? We're just fundamentally applying the same patterns we see everywhere getting applied, right? Like a river, it finds the most efficient way to where it's trying to go, right? Or a bird that's going and migrating. They find the most efficient way. It's just about applying the same patterns we see everywhere, but now just to what we're doing when we're having our projects, the things that we're manifesting into the world, right? And it's safe. Like, look at this. We've done this time and time again. You've been doing things like this. You've always been finding the most efficient way to do things throughout your life. And in my own work, I found when I started doing these concepts and I started applying these principles of slow yet perfect elements into a way to make them move fast and get stuff done more soon, but the right way and not having to restart, when I started applying it, it was like magic and it was very nice, right? So stick around to the end. I'm going to give you some supplies that'll help connect all this together for free, and we're going to have a good day today, okay? So what's the first thing that we need to cover? Well, you got to start understanding, right, one big concept first. And that big concept, right, that we've been talking about in all of these videos is that we're just reapplying patterns, okay? We're just pattern recognizers and optimizers. And I'm going to keep reiterating that throughout all of these videos, because when you keep fundamentally understanding that, you're going to start seeing things I'm not even noticing yet, because you're also a pattern optimizer, okay? That's born into you. So when you start understanding that, you're going to start seeing this in your own work and how you can start going faster the right way, okay? So what's the first thing? Well, let's pretend we don't have an agent system. Let's pretend we're just doing stuff on our own, right? Well, the first thing we got to do is we got to start determining what's the goal, right? Not only what's the goal, like what's that dream output, what's that manifestation that we want, right? What are we trying to get to, okay? When we understand that, we can start to work it backwards, right, of all the things that need to get done, like in this beautiful straight line right here. And this allows us to remove all of the noise, all of these extra things, right? Okay, so let's take this and make it a practical example, okay? Well, let's pretend we're trying to learn how to play tennis, and we got a tennis match that we've got to play maybe in 2 to 3 months from now, all right? Well, we've got to be able to know how to play the match, so we got to know the score for sure. We got to learn this stuff, okay? That's for sure, okay? But we're also gonna have to play a serve every other game, right? We're gonna be serving, so we got to know how to do that. And we're going to be returning every other game. So we got to know how to return, okay? But do I need to learn how to drop shot? Will I play that every point? Maybe, maybe not, probably not, right? And am I going to be coming in and chipping and charging every point? I don't know, probably not. Yeah, but am I going to be playing 40-shot rallies every point? Actually, no, because 75% of the points are within 4 shots, right? Serve, return, maybe a forehand, maybe a backhand, okay? That's it, 4 shots, the point's over. Me, you, that's it. So if we fundamentally think, all right, how can I get prepared for this match in 3 months without knowing any tennis and yet have a really good chance against this guy, right? Maybe even win. Well, let's remove all the noise. We're not going to focus on drop shots. We're not going to focus on chip and charge. We're not even going to focus on slicing, okay? We're going to focus on the most irreducible, the things that are for sure going to happen, the things that are essential to getting the job done, right? Serve, return, and a little bit of the forehand, a little bit of the backhand, okay? Maybe just get max out on the serve, max out on the return, that's fine, okay? So when you realize this concept, right, we can take it to other things. We got to say, what's the output, and what are the most essential things we got to do to get there, right? The most essential, and we cut out all the bloat, all right? Now, that's our moving fast element, okay? But now, there's a point number 2. How do we bring in the moving slow elements, the getting it right elements, the fundamentals, okay? That's it, right there. It's the fundamentals, okay? So what does that even mean? Well, I could just learn to serve like this, like that. Or I could just toss up the ball and bam, like this. I could do that too, right? But if I learn to serve fundamentally the right way, right? If I fundamentally learn to serve the right way, okay? In 3 months' time, I wouldn't just have trained for this one singular tennis match. I would have set myself up for the next match, maybe the following week, and the next tournament, right? And the next year. I won't have to restart from scratch. How many times have you done something too fast just because you wanted to get it done, only to have to redo the work? Let me tell you, I've had to do that many times, and it's not fun doing it and restarting. I did it the other day. I was testing out something new with this AI, trying to build this thing in a different way. I wanted to find out. At the end of the day, I said, bro, it's cooked. Like, we have to restart. We've messed up too many things. It's like almost irreparable, right? It's like, think of all this governmental stuff going on, and when you look at all of it and you're like, oh my God, what a big mess, right? Sometimes it's just easier to start from scratch because you've gone and you've made all this mess out of everything, right? So we want to look at the beginning and we want to start with the pure fundamentals, just like we do when we're building out something and going slow and doing it the right way, okay? So how do I do that with the serve? Well, I would be learning to use my hips to do that, right? Because I can take that element with me, right? Same with the forehand. I can take that element with me to hit the forehand or hit the backhand, right? Okay? And then look at it in business. Look at it in coding, okay? So with coding, we have this thing called test-driven development, right? This is this ability to not just make a beautiful page, have some functions that work, okay? It's about taking this idea of test-driven development, which is where we write a test and say, hey, is it going to work or not? We do the test first, and then we make the actual functions. Then we make the actual logic, the code, the UI, all right? And then it has to pass the test, okay? Well, when we apply that first concept, right, and the second concept together, that's when we get to the third part, okay? Because now, yes, we're learning to cut out all the noise. And now we're also focusing on all this singular stuff in this path that we have to do, for sure, to get to the end result. But then 3, it's putting those two together, right? Where we start building out the most essential things from the right fundamentals, such as starting with this test-driven approach to make these most essential things done. Because when we do this, when we build these things the right way, yeah, but we only build the essential things. Now, we had focus, and we got to do everything we wanted to do, that we needed to get done. But 2, we don't have to throw this away later. We can get it done now, right? We don't have to redo them. It's beautiful, right? So let's look at an example, right? Let's say I learned the serve in like 10 minutes, right? Just toss it up, pancake it like this. Okay, great. That's it. I got to serve it. Well, guess what? In a week or maybe after 3 months, you're like, oh my God, my serve sucks. I can't win this match. I'll never be able to win. I got to relearn the whole serve. Okay, well, how do I do that? And so all those 3 months of pancaking the serve in like this did absolutely nothing for you. So yeah, you learned the serve in an hour, maybe even 10 minutes. But now you're screwed because you've got to restart again, right? So instead, if we had just said, let's take a week, 2 weeks to get the serve right, okay? Now in 3 months, we can just keep building on top of that. Same with the code. We can build out a product, right? But we don't have to start from scratch. We can just keep building on what we've already got that's already working because we built it from the right fundamentals, okay? So this is the first big part of this book, or this is kind of like a book in a way, but this video here is that we want to start with cutting out all the bloat, focusing on the most essential things that we have to get done, right? By just literally looking here and saying, what do we actually need to get there, right? Let's look at numbers, let's look at things, look at stats, look at metrics. That also helps, okay? What is your UVP, your unique value prop? What is the most essential thing you have to have? Like the one feature that every user is going to be using, the most common interactions, right? The most common points, right? The serve is always happening. The return's always happening. This user going to that chat is always happening, right? For sure. And you can look at a couple of extra things. But beyond that, right, if you want to throw a number on it, throw a number on it. I don't care. If it's like below 30% interaction time of all the core things they're doing, then don't use it. If you want to say 60%, do that. It's up to you to make that decision, okay? So we apply these together and we have beautiful perfection, okay? So now let's look at what we talked about from the other video. And if you haven't watched that video, I want you to go and watch it, all right? It's where I talk about this building from zero to a zero-person business, right? Literally level zero, going all the way back to a zero-person business, where I talk about how you have these pipelines, right? Where you string together these agents, just like a company, right? You have these workers. One guy's doing finance, one guy's doing accounting, one guy's doing this, one guy's doing that, and you string them together in a nice pipeline, right? Now you have multiple pipelines going on, right? Or you've got multiple tasks going on, okay? Well, how can we still apply this concept of like lean, what I would call lean perfectionism, right? How can we apply that to these pipelines so we don't get stuck in this slow slog that I'm telling you about, like this perfectionist slog, right? Where we're like going through, quicksand, which is very slow sand, right? Going through the mud. Well, that's again where we start to separate. We start to see what's essential, right? What is actually dependent upon here? What is actually needed, right? So we take this singular pipeline, this singular dependency, and we start to branch it. We start to have this dependency matrix. Okay, I get to step 5. Now, do I have to do step 6 after step 5? Or could I have done step 6 after step 3? Right? What about step 7? I could have done that after step 3 as well. Step 8? Okay, step 8, I for sure had to wait till step 7. All right? So, what does that mean? Well, we can say, okay, I'm getting step 1, getting step 2, getting step 3. Oh, step 3, unlocked. Step 4, but also step 6 and 7. Okay? So now we can get ahead and start doing that work automatically, right? Because you got to look from step 6 and step 7's point of view. Is step 5 essential, right? Is it essential? Is step 4 essential right now to allowing me to do this work? Yes or no, right? Is it essential? So same with the serve, right? I could just learn this. I could just learn pop it up and hit the ball a little, dink it over, right? But if I say, learning the serve, learning the forehand, learning the backhand, essentially, they're all dependent upon learning to work the hips correctly, doing that part first correctly, okay? Same with the backhand. So first, I should really do the hips. But then after that, hey, I can do the forehand, I can work on the backhand, I can work on the serve whenever I want. I can go whatever order, but there's dependency, okay? So you look at that, you say, okay, what are my dependencies? What do I have to get done, right? But then I'm not reliant on the next thing having to do that necessarily, right? It depends, right? That's why it's called a dependency matrix. It depends, okay? So look at that. Break your thing up, your long dependency list, and start branching it, saying, hey, I can do this now after this step, and I can do this now after that step, okay? So I'll include the resource as well for that in the description. So what have we done today? Well, we've gone and we've covered how we can move fast, cut out the bloat, how we can move slow while going fast, start from the right fundamental approach, okay? And then how can we now look at taking that the next level, dependency matrices, right? We can say, I don't need to rely on this. I can just go ahead and start right now with that thing. Beautiful, okay? Now you have your little team of agent workers that are going ahead and starting to do the work, right? And it's getting things done much faster, okay? And same with your own workers, same with your own things in life, all right? It's all like that. It's beautiful, okay? So just think about some things that you got going on and see how you can apply that. And the bonus here is that you have to just start doing this one very simple thing, right? Which is you got to just start perceiving reality differently, right? You don't have to tell yourself, I got to do this, I got to do that. Do you really have to do that though? Do you really? Because when you realize that it's all about your perceived reality, right? Your own lens of interpretation of what is and what isn't, what must be done and what doesn't need to be done, right? When you start to shift that, right, you can start seeing clearly the truth, the one way to do things, right? The fast way and the fundamental way to do things. So when you learn this true fundamental, which is that you have this lens of interpretation, the way that you see reality, that determines everything in the world, when you start to realize that you can shift this around, right, then you can start seeing clearly. Then you can start getting work done way faster, right, and more effectively, right, and doing it done the right way. That's beautiful. So I've gone ahead and linked some resources like the dependency matrix and some questions below, so you can just use those, take them and start improving your systems, start improving whatever you're doing in life, because they're agnostic, right? And then you can also take them, give them to AI, and it can adapt it to whatever else you might need in life. Just ask the AI, hey, I got to use it for tennis. How can you make this specialized for tennis, or specialize it for cooking, or specialize it for dating? Okay, pretty cool. Now in the next video, we're going to be talking about how we can start shifting our perception of things, how we can start using that as a more deeper power, right? And how we can start seeing the world and acting in the world, okay? So go ahead and click that right here, because that is fundamental. When you learn this one fundamental truth, it's going to literally change how you see the world, because it's all about the reality that you see. So go ahead and click right here.